Good evening, everyone. All right, we will go ahead and get started. I'm sure there may be a few people coming in a couple minutes, and they are welcome to grab a seat. Can everybody hear me okay? No? Okay.
I heard that.
Maybe I'll move this a little closer. Let's try this. Can everyone hear me all right at this point? All right, want to make sure that we're good. Carol Samuel will be happy that I did this up front in the beginning of the meeting if she's listening. Real quickly, again, good evening. My name is Andy Moore, and on behalf of the Penfield Town Board, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight for the public information meeting regarding the potential uses for the Shadow Pines property. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Supervisor LaFountain, who is here in the audience today. Also, Councilwoman Linda Cole is here, along with Councilman Rob Quinn and Councilwoman Paula Metzler. Up here joining me from the Town Planning Department and also from the Town Engineering Department is Zach Newsinger and Jim Costello. This forum provides an opportunity for Penfield residents to express their ideas, thoughts, or suggestions to the Shadow Pines Land Use Advisory Committee, which was created by the Penfield Town Board. The committee, comprised of 12 volunteer residents from across the town of Penfield, are here tonight to listen to the residents and their ideas. I'd like to thank all 12 committee members for joining us this evening. I just want to list them so that we know who they are and the time that they put into this committee moving on through 2018 and into 2019. First, Beth Baris, Trish Bhattacharya, Steve Brent, Terry Bruce, Susan Kavanaugh, Kelly Malley, Ginny McAuliffe, Eric Metzler, Bob Peterson, Lance Sieber, Jeff Taddeo, and Ryan Teeter. So thank you, committee members, for joining us. Just a few housekeeping items and ground rules moving forward for tonight. As I mentioned before, committee members are here to listen to you, Penfield residents. This forum is not meant to be a debate or a question-answer session. It's a listening session for committee members to hear from Penfield residents on what their suggestions, ideas, and recommendations are for the property. No decisions will be made tonight. It's a listening session for committee members. Everyone has an opportunity to speak and comment on what they might like to see on the property. In fairness to all attendees, I ask each speaker to please keep their remarks to less than 3 minutes. We've been here many times to midnight on some of these meetings, and I'm sure everybody's got other things that they can do. So if you can keep those comments to less than 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. Once we conclude all first-time speakers, there will be an opportunity for someone to come and speak again when all first-time speakers are done. And obviously, it goes without question, please respect everybody's opinions and suggestions, even though you may not disagree or you may agree or disagree with them. Everybody has the right to be here tonight to make their point on what they'd like to see done with that land in future use. Should any Penfield residents have any additional thoughts, comments, or suggestions, you can submit them in 4 different ways up until December 4th, 2018. You can go to penfield.org. You can go to the Shadow Pines Land Use Advisory Committee link, which is on the quick links on the left side of the web page, penfield.org. Or you can mail them to the Town of Penfield Planning Department at 3100 Atlantic Avenue, Penfield, New York, 14526. There also is a QR code here that Dave Renner and our PCTV staff put that you can use your phone, get to that QR code. That will take you right to the survey link, and you can add some suggestions or comments at that point. I just want to take a quick minute and just kind of go over a couple of things. You know, unfortunately in this day and age, with multiple social media formats, there are always rumors and misinformation or false information being spread. I'd like to take a minute and just debunk 3 rumors brought to my attention recently. Social media indicated that the town was looking to sell or demolish the Clark House. The town has no desire, the town board has no desire to sell or demolish the Clark House. The town board some years ago designated the Clark House as a historical site. The town is in the process of preparing a solicitation of interest for future use of the Clark House. Rumor 2, the Clark House barn will be demolished. The barn was recently toured by the committee members, I believe 2 or 3 times, and is clearly in bad shape. No decision on the structure has been made, and it is included in the solicitation of interest for future use. Rumor 3, the town hall is suggesting developing sections of the Shadow Pine property for municipal and school use, or school district use, like a large school bus garage or an ambulance station. The town has received a letter from the Penfield School District asking the committee to consider this use for a school bus garage. The town has never advocated for a school district bus garage nor an ambulance station at the Shadow Pines property. I believe those rumors have been corrected, and I thank the individual for correcting that rumor quickly and expeditiously, but I just wanted to make that point tonight in case any of you heard these rumors. I wanted to clarify that in the interest of transparency for this evening's meeting. Please go to penfield.org to get accurate and up-to-date information on the progress of the committee work. Again, penfield.org. The next committee meeting for this group will be on December 11th, 2018. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the forum so residents can come forward and give their suggestions and ideas and recommendations to the committee. Most of the committee members are right up front here, and I will like to go ahead and pursue that.
Make sure that everybody signed up that wants to speak.
Thank you. If you would like to sign up to speak and you have not done so already, there are some sheets of paper and a pen right behind the second row up front next to the supervisor, and they will get those to me so we can get you up here so the committee can hear what you have to say. All right. Just so everybody knows, 2 restrooms are right outside the hallway here. Please feel free to use them if you need to. The first speaker for tonight, and I'll call 2 speakers at a time so the next speaker can come up and sit next to Supervisor LaFountain. First speaker is David Willome, and the second speaker is Mike Ruff. Thank you.
I'll just make this short and sweet. My name is David Willome. I've been a resident of Penfield for over 31 years. I live in at City View Drive. I have 2 grandsons that are growing up in Penfield, over in Penfield Hills, and I often do take them to the First Responders Spray Park up in Webster. I think we should at least have a spray park in the space that we're having right now, or we're building in the park right now. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And could I just ask the speakers when they come up to please cite their name and address for the committee. Next speaker is Mike Ruff, and on deck is Eric Reiner.
My name is Mike Ruff. I live at 35 Pond Valley Circle. I was on the Save Shadow Pine Committee. I would like to speak to the first committee, the one before this 12, I think it was 22 people. I believe their first recommendation was to have green space, open space, not 300 homes. I hope everyone keeps in mind that we were looking for green space, open space, trees, anything that's low impact. I don't want to see a bus garage there. I don't want to see yellow buses coming in and out of Shadow Pines. That would defeat, in my opinion, the flavor of what was voted on. Also, I'm very concerned about the, what's it called? Oh, my mind's blanking. You know how it's zoned? I think it's zoned right now residential. I'm very concerned about both golf courses zoning. I'm hoping you can change the zoning. Thank you.
Great. Eric Reiner, and on deck, Dominic Anisi.
Hello, my name's Eric Reinert. I live at 24 Blossom Circle West, which is sort of a weird part of the world where I don't belong to either Brighton or Penfield. But my kids are, they're students in the Penfield School District, and I think this is going to be a great resource for them, so I just wanted to stand and be counted. One of the things I wanted to advocate for was the development of shared use trails at the park for running and cycling. I think if those trails were developed, especially by local clubs, they'd make a great venue for the school district to have their cross-country races there. There could be, the local running clubs could have trail running races there. The local cycling clubs could have cyclocross races there as well. And I also hadn't thought of, but I would greatly support the idea of the spray park. I liked that as well. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Dominic Anisi, and then Donna Spinella.
I'm Dominic Anise, and I live at 15 Piccadilly Square. Yeah, and I've been a resident for 20 years. First time I've ever spoken in here. And you notice I have a piece of paper. The young man before me had it on his. A little taken aback there, but anyway, some of the things I'm going to mention, but I just it's a blank slate. I didn't want to miss anything. Making sure that we had nice restrooms at the facility, so that's one. The other idea that we have is a festival site, and I am thinking that what a great place to have festivals, and maybe I could see a Finger Lakes Festival at our place, and a place that would really put Penfield maybe on the map in the Finger Lakes, and make some connections with our neighbors. It's a thought. I'd like to see some sledding trails for the young people, and also some cross-country. I don't cross-country ski, but going along with the other gentlemen's statements about trails for maybe skiing, where we actually put some tracks down for those people that like to cross-country ski. I think it's a great location. I know people have done it, do it there now. Obviously, marked trails, and making sure that we have nice marked trails like they do in Webster, and that's an easy one, obviously. And the other thing that I would like to see is that we do keep certain parts of the park mowed. Now, I don't mean mowed continuously, but it's like, if anybody's been to Gosnell, they mow those fields once a year there. So after the birds and after all of that goes on, to make sure that we have certain areas that are just mowed, because they're very helpful for the butterflies and the animals. So thank you.
Thank you. Donna Spinella, and on deck is Brian Williamson.
Hi, my name's Donna Spinella. I live at 39 Scarborough Park. First, I would like to state my very clear preference that Shadow Pines remain as open space, which was also the first choice of the moratorium committee that we had this past spring. But I have an overarching desire to see that Penfield lives up to its motto as the town of planned progress. I am fully convinced that we cannot do so if we don't consider Shadow Pines, the adjacent quarry, and Shadow Lake as one unified special district. We know that when Dolomite Quarry ceases operations, though not projected in the very near future, that big old hole is going to fill with water and become a lake with over 100 acres of surface area. But in fact, it is just a big straight-sided hole hundreds of feet deep. Without substantial acreage to grade it properly, it loses any potential for recreational use and simply becomes a hazard. A portion of Shadow Pines nearest the quarry would need to be available to carry out such massive grading. And in the process, we would create a wonderful lake for residents to enjoy, one that would enhance our town property's values, and one that would bring new interest to Penfield's business community. On the other side of the quarry lies the Shadow Lake Golf Course, and we all hope that that course stays in business for many years to come. But it's short-sighted, especially in light of the nationwide declining interest in golf as a sport and what we have just seen from Shadow Pines, to assume that Shadow Lake will just thrive forever. Without some reasonable forethought and oversight regarding Shadow Lake's possible future use, and what we know from DEC filings and other documents about the quarry, we would be imprudent, bordering on willfully negligent, to make decisions about shadow pines in isolation. A special district and a new zoning category should most certainly be among the options on the table. I'm a member of the town's recently appointed Comprehensive Plan Committee, and the more I look into prior comprehensive plans and think about the next 10, 12 years for this town and what our goals should be, the more convinced I am that we need to recognize that these three properties are intimately connected. That is, they're connected if we think of Penfield as a town of planned progress. Neither planning nor progress, when it's as important as it is for a town, is just some simple move forward on a checkerboard. It's thinking 5 moves ahead, like on a chessboard, with all the likely obstacles and contingencies considered in advance. Lastly, I'd like to stress that haste makes waste in decisions such as this one, big, somewhat irreversible decisions such as this one. There is no urgency to find an immediate use for shadow pines. I know that your committee was given a deadline of March to turn in your final recommendations, but I think that that is a sort of a false deadline. If anything, keeping shadow pines as it is now, as open space with some opportunity for people to walk and use the trails there, keeps the cost of it down. And that same beautiful natural space is precisely what preserves our options for making the best possible long-term decisions for all of those properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Williamson, and on deck is John Giotto and Anna Gorbald.
I'm here representing Rochester Cross Country Ski Foundation. We're a volunteer 501c organization. Our president, Brian Lilly, was unable to make it tonight, and he asked to read a letter. I think it's longer than what I need to say. We're here to help you. We think it'd make a wonderful cross-country ski venue for you. We currently groom Harriet Hollister, Duran Eastman Park, Mendon Ponds and Webster Park. We have the equipment to do the grooming. All we need is the okay. So I think that kind of summarizes it, and I think Anna and John are going to talk more about it. So
Great. Thank you. John and Anna, looks like you have agreed to split time. Thank you. Sue DeRosa on deck.
I'm John Giotto. I live at 168 Penn Lane. I've been a Penfield resident off and on since 1966. I'm also the Nordic ski coach for Penfield. I coach the varsity, junior varsity, and modified program. I don't know how many people knew that we had a Nordic ski team, but we do. And I don't particularly live close to the area, but I drive by it every day to work. I'm a school teacher at Bay Trail Middle School, and it's just beautiful open space. Just the way that it looks, it's perfect. And obviously, I've got a bias here. I'm going to advocate for some cross-country skiing there in the winter. I think other people made some fabulous suggestions themselves, but just to look at trees. And I kind of agree with the one person, the mowing of the lawn might not be a bad idea, but just to keep that open for all kinds of activities, you really can't make a mistake by that. There's a chance for scholastic meets there, not only cross-country skiing, but also cross-country running, and I think that that team has taken advantage of that already. I'm going to give the rest of my time to Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Penfield has a great cross-country ski team. My name is Anna Gorbald, and I'm also the Monroe County Chairman for the Nordic High School program in our area. I'd like to commend Penfield for having the foresight and the wisdom to purchase the Shadow Pines Golf Club and to explore how the property will be used, and hopefully to the benefit of the community. Being heavily involved in the Nordic High School program, I know we are always looking for good skiing terrain for training and for racing. Remaining healthy is vital to us all. Keeping active in the winter is crucial, and Nordic skiing is an amazing way to enjoy the winter and to stay fit. It would be incredible to have the property available for Nordic skiing in the winter months. You've heard of the RXF, the Rochester Nordic Cross Country Ski Foundation, is supportive of any Nordic event attempts, and as are the high school programs as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Sue DeRosa and on deck Mindy McLaren.
Hi. Sue DeRosa, 29 Summer Glen Drive. Thank you for this opportunity and love the ideas and support those. We have a unique opportunity here, and it's truly a jewel. And I think we can put Penfield on the map with what we have to offer. The suggestion I have would provide a year-round opportunity. Isn't that nice? Because, you know, our seasons sometimes run together, as we know. And again, it'll make our community unique. My husband and I, Bob, had an opportunity to visit a place that is near Cazenovia, New York. And when I saw that, and then I saw what we have, I wanted to share this opportunity. They have both outdoor and indoor space, and it's a number of acres. It's outdoor, and they have exhibits and art, okay, that's been provided by a number of people, and it's walking. There's no driving. You get to walk and enjoy the terrain and the outside, all different kinds of things there. So they have the trails, they also have the exhibits, and there's site rental. I guess a lot of people like to get married on those sites. They also have indoor space because there is these art opportunities. So I thought of the buildings that are on Shadow Pines that could be used for classes. We have community offerings, right? We might be able to use that space there. And we could rent space, perhaps, for artists and offer classes and use it as an extension of other places that we hold classes. So I just wanted to share, in case anybody was interested, the name of the place in Cazenovia is Stone Quarry Hill Art Park, and they do have a website. And so I think I don't quite articulate how lovely it is, and it'll give you an opportunity to check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mindy McLaren and on deck Samuel Ogie.
Hi, my name is Mindy McLaren. I live at 1724 5 Mile Line Road. I would like to see Shadow Pines stay as undeveloped as possible. Penfield residents overwhelmingly voted to save Shadow Pines from development. Its proximity to the quarry, which will become a giant lake when mining operations there cease, allows our community a unique opportunity to create a natural and historic destination spot. Paths and trails should be developed and maintained for recreational purposes such as walking, biking, and cross-country skiing. It could be promoted to a wide variety of interest groups, including bicycle clubs, bird watchers, horseback riders, botanists, archaeology classes, reenactment groups, nature photographers, and the list could go on, as we've already heard some great suggestions. Donations and grants should be requested to preserve both the Clark House and its barn for their historic importance, and these could be used to house amenities for visitors to the trails and to the eventual lake. My opinion is that any plan for the Shadow Pines property must take into account the potential for a 100-acre lake, and any building there must be low impact and must support the property's use for outdoor recreation. Studies show that open space improves a town's quality of life, providing residents with both increased property values and mental and physical health benefits. Saving old buildings has both economic and cultural benefits. They're perfect for eclectic businesses and can make a town a unique place to visit. The preservation of a historical building is a one-way street. There's no chance to renovate or save a historic site once it's gone. We would be wise to promote the Shadow Pines property and the Clark House as the natural and historic destinations that they are, and to let that be enough until the 100-acre lake across the road fills in, when Penfield will be able to live up to its motto of being the town of planned progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Samuel Ogie and on deck James Nelson.
Thank you. I'm Sam Ogie. I live at 1924 Clark Road. For the committee members, I'd just like to thank you for putting time into this. I was a member of the previous Shadow Pines Committee, and it's the work that all of you do that will really help the town. As you do that, I'd like you just to keep in mind a few things. First, the overwhelming response from the community. We're going on 3 years now, I think, if I count right, and we still have so many people turning out. It's clear that this is not considered just another property by the residents of Penfield. Some things that came through very clearly over the years are the desire to preserve open space and the natural beauty of that property. Those are two things that we've heard over and over again over the years. Two other things I hope the committee will keep in consideration is the historical importance of the site, not just the Clark House that we've heard about already, but the site being on the Denonville Trail, a very early exploration of this area. So there are historical opportunities with the property. And then also the eventual lake that we've heard about a few times. I think those are four big kind of overarching principles to think about as you consider all the ideas, some very nice ideas that we've had tonight. The final thing I'd like you to consider is that whatever happens with this property, in some ways, it's like planting a tree. You don't plant a tree for yourself, you plant a tree for your grandchildren. That's how long it takes to develop. And whatever we do with this property, we should think about it in that light. If we make a mistake, it's a mistake that we'll have to live with forever. But if we take a unique opportunity to improve the quality of life of Penfield, it's something that will benefit Penfield residents for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. James Nelson, and on deck is Stan Sweet.
Hello there. My name is Jay Nelson. I live at 1856 Penfield Road. My family and I have lived there for 16 years now. Our property backs right up to Heritage Park, where we used to have a gazebo, but what happened to it is that it pretty much got destroyed. Mostly by the area kids who really didn't have a lot of other things to do. That's one of the things that I like about the idea of the Shadow Pines and everything, is that with the idea of having a park, with the idea of having trails, things like that, I think that would give a lot of people something to do. Not just the kids, although I think that that would help, but also, I mean, how many adults are interested in walking trails? How many adults are interested in maybe riding bikes on those trails, things like that. I think that specifically targeting kids is a great idea, having something to do for them, but also just being aware that it's not obviously just kids who would be interested. I have 4 children myself, and the amount of outdoor activity that we talk about, how kids need all the time instead of screen time, and having this property right there for us in the middle, almost the geographic center of everything, and being able to use that would be fantastic. I also think I have one son who will ride pretty much anything with wheels on it. He's not picky. And having a skate park of some sort, not just trails, developing a little bit here and there would be a great idea. There are a few in the area, but we have to drive a good half hour to get to really most of them. Having a nice one closer, again, I see a lot of opportunities for pulling people in, really any type of serviceable space like that. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Stan Sweet, and on deck, Bob Serkiu.
Hi, I'm Stan Sweet. I live at 67 Clearview Drive in Penfield. Been here a long time, originally from Fairport, but like it in Penfield. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody in the room that helped us buy this property, because it's just absolutely wonderful. My wife and I have walked it a number of times. Can't tell you how happy I am to have it. Used to go to Mendon Ponds parking lot. That's a heck of a drive from Penfield. But the good news is we have this, but I'd like to keep it this. I fear that if we start putting a bunch of things other than wilderness, if you will, in there, that it's going to change the whole aspect of what that park should be. But that's my opinion. All these ideas that we've heard here tonight are very, very good. Hiking trails, gotta have them, love them. cross-country skiing, thank you very much for that. I'd like the school to be able to use the property for cross-country races and training. That's a wonderful thing. Yes, the fairways should be brush hogged once a year. They don't have to be done every year. You just need to keep the trees down, and it wouldn't take a lot to do that. And then one other suggestion that I have, that small utility building in the backside of the Clark House, I think would make a nice, what do you call it? Home for parties, a rental thing for picnics, that sort of thing. I think it could be turned into that fairly easily. So that's really all I have to say. But again, thank you so much for buying the property. I love it. I'm just sorry that I never played golf there.
Thank you. Bob Serkiu, on deck, John Shembri.
Good evening. I come to you as a past moratorium committee member, a father, and I'm also the Penfield Youth Lacrosse president. So a couple different hats that I do wear. A lot of the ideas that have been expressed here go along with what the original committee did have in its point to keep it green space, use it for recreation use. And the recreation use cannot just be focused on one thing, such as the cross-country skiing or walking and biking tracks. When I obviously am going to speak specifically to the youth organization, I have 3 kids, but I'm also looking out for 350 kids that are in our youth program. Right now, during a focused 7 to 8 week period, which is our prime practice and game use in the spring, we're spread out over 3 different parks. Some of those parks are not as safe as they could be just because of the volume of people that we have coming in and out with parking issues. Over at Greenwood, there's no bathroom facilities. So the porta potty that's at Greenwood, PYL pays for. We do that as a nice neighborly thing to do. We don't expect it of the town. So we put that up from April, and it's actually still there. It's going to come down this month because we need to have that available for our youth, but anyone else can use it at the same time. So as you go forward, sometimes there's different connotations when it's going to be focused on sports, but it's an outlet. It's something for the kids to do away from a device. It's something for the kids to do to learn. And they also become community members. They become team leaders. They learn a lot of different skills about life from such an organization, and not just lacrosse. There's a lot of other sports that could use it also, while it's used for nature and recreation use. So again, as a former committee member, I know the time and effort that you all will be putting into this, and I appreciate that, and I want to thank you in advance for the hard work that's to come.
Thank you. John Shembri, and on deck, Jerry Russ.
Hi, I'm John Shembri. I reside at 12 Hidden Meadow. I've been a Penfield community member for 40 years now. I graduated from Penfield. I'm a proud homeowner, and I have 3 kids, but I'm also the head varsity lacrosse coach at the high school, and I'm also a EP biology teacher and living environment teacher at the high school. I just wanted to come and kind of support what Bob had to say in regards to our need for rectangular fields in the town. We have a very dangerous situation over at Greenwood Park now that our program has grown to a very large size, 350 members. We have people parking on the sidewalks. We have no bathroom facilities, and we have wonderful facilities in this town. I mean, I look right out the door here, you see this beautiful baseball facility, and it's got concession stands and, you know, lights, and it's wonderful. And we'd just like to see something like that emulated for fields that play in a rectangular space, not just for lacrosse, maybe for soccer. Just expand maybe just the front 9 of Shadow Pines, keep the back 9 open space. I love that idea. Heard a lot of other great ideas here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your time.
Jerry Russ, and on deck, Jeff Burns.
I'm Jerry Russ. I live on Heather Drive. I've lived in Penfield for 35 years now. And with that length of time, I know what this town has, what it doesn't have, and what it should have. I've been a long advocate of an outdoor swimming facility. I taught in Webster for the last 15 years, and right across the street from their high school is a very, very nice ice facility that they could do. I know that there is no full-size baseball field in Penfield. The American Legion has to play in Wayne County because there's no place for them here in town. So these are things that I would throw out as suggestions that might be considered. The thing that we really need is, it goes back 20 years ago, I sat in this room, and there was a hearing such as this to give relief to the people who lived on Huntington Meadow because of their traffic problems. And that resulted in the speed humps, which we all love. My observation is that it hasn't reduced the traffic there. It hasn't even slowed it down much. Now that we have this property, we might be able to do something about it. I would propose that we consider extending Wayland Road, the east-west portion of Wayland Road, all the way to Panorama Trail. There is a way to do it, to go between the communities of Mountain Lane and Huntington Meadow. And I think that it would be a sensible thing to do. The part of Penfield that I live in is difficult to get to the rest of town. I either have to use Huntington Meadow, or I have to go down to Vision Buick and make the turn onto 441, and then wait for the traffic, the almost unbearable traffic going up 441 through the Four Corners. And this is another deficiency, is that there are very few good east-west routes in our town. So that might be considered. We have this property, and it's something that we can initiate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jeff Burns, and on deck is Lori Rayner, I believe on Clark Road.
Hi, I'm Jeff Burns. I live at 39 Scarborough Park. I was one of the founders of Save Shadow Pines. After 2 years of effort by a lot of us, many of us right here in this room, more than 80% of the voters in last February's referendum voted to save Shadow Pines and the Clark House from residential development. Our group, Save Shadow Pines, is now called Friends of Shadow Pines. We helped rally our fellow residents. We held a lot of meetings, went door to door. What we kept hearing over and over again was that people wanted to protect Shadow Pines as natural open space. So recently we did a survey, and we received about 125 responses to date. Some of the questions we asked included why people voted the way they did, and again, it was overwhelmingly in favor of maintaining open space, and the recognition that open space would make Penfield a more desirable place to live, and concerns about traffic. We also asked, as of now, how much of Shadow Pines should remain as natural open space? And nearly 90% of the people who responded, it was about 125 people, said that they would like all or as much as possible to remain as natural open space. So in terms of recreational uses, the top 4 uses were included a lot of what was mentioned tonight. Walking, hiking, and jogging, quiet places with nature, bicycling on marked paths, cross-country skiing. Only 27% wanted to see off-trail bicycle riding, and I'm afraid sports fields were near the bottom of the list at about 20%. In terms of people who voted in the referendum, not that many people voted, said that, of the people in our survey said that they had voted because of wanting more sports fields. Now there's over 200 acres there, and there's certainly room for a lot of different things. But as many of us can recognize, nearly all of our other parks are developed, very highly developed, predominantly with lots of sports fields. And I'm not against sports fields. I like them, and I like seeing people using them and all. And again, there may be room for sports fields within Shadow Pines, but I believe that it's time that we accommodate nature and allow a large area to remain mostly or entirely in a natural state. And I do like the idea of what's been mentioned before of using a brush cutter to keep trees down and things. A couple of recommendations I'd like to make to the citizens group. One is to please balance the input you receive from our town planners with outside stakeholders like you're doing tonight and experts on open space, natural preservation, and low impact recreation. Some of the groups that have been here tonight would be good to invite into your group to speak where you can ask them questions. But I'd also suggest that you speak with groups like the Rochester Design Center. They have a great deal of expertise in town and recreational space planning. The Genesee Valley Land Trust, which has experience in land preservation and recreational use, and also to invite stakeholders such as representatives of neighborhood associations and even from Dolomite and Shadow Lake. The Penfield Historical Society would be useful for getting information about the historical nature of the area and what areas can be preserved and how we might use some of the buildings, including the Clark House, for historical presentations. And then, of course, the Friends of Shadow Pines. We would welcome participating in any way that we can and to answer any questions from our experience. And as somebody said earlier, there's no rush, no need to rush into anything, and we shouldn't rush. If your committee needs more time beyond your current deadline, please speak up and please ask to have more time. I would suggest that you have a survey like we did and make it more of an official sort of a survey using online and mail purposes so we can have additional representation and participation. And then again, in terms of not rushing, as has been mentioned before, the land is inexpensive to maintain as it is. There's no harm if it stays this way. A lot of us would be very happy with it this way. And it could stay this way for a couple more years or indefinitely, and there wouldn't be a lot of harm done in doing that. So I would also say to please seek whatever information you need from whomever, and to expand the scope of your charge if you feel that's necessary, to insist upon expanding the scope. If you think that it's necessary to look at the Shadow Pines, the Clark House, and Shadow Lake in context of each other, then I think that's something you should insist upon if that's what you believe is in our best interest. I again also say that we should include Clark House in the quarry future in your discussions. As has been mentioned before, the opportunity for this large recreational lake there is beyond comprehensive what it could do for our town. And when we look at Shadow Pines, we need to think about that and what happens, whether it's 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or whatever. And I would suggest perhaps scheduling another public session like this if you think it's needed, that it would be up to you. Regarding new municipal buildings, I'd like you to keep in mind that the Rothfuss master plan included space for new community buildings there. And if you folks have been over to Rothfuss, you know that circle, that paved circle that leads to nowhere. That's where there was space set up in the master plan for the community center, and it's right in the master plan document itself for Rothfuss, and it shows 50,000 square feet future options for community center addition, 10,000 square feet multi-use space for park center. So there's room in other places. We don't have to feel obligated to use Shadow Pines for that, and it would be a really unique and wonderful addition to Penfield for us to leave that in as much as possible in a natural state. Thank you. And I also just wanted to make a quick thank you to the committee for all that you're doing. I know the time that you're all putting into this, and really appreciate your participation, and just want you to understand how much we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Lori, and then Bridget Rohde Garrison.
Well, there's nothing I can say. I've been along with Jeff and everybody else for the long haul here, and we just appreciate the town's support to us, and all I can say is I have the best view, and if you want to come over for coffee every morning and like sit with me and have it, but I have a crazy idea. I'm a history major and have my degree from SUNY Oneonta, and I went to Cooperstown, and I think we could have a lovely, lovely, I don't know, we could have a cemetery over there, and I think it's crazy, and you think it's crazy too, but they don't have any cars, they don't have anything, they don't have any kids, and I think that we could do a really nice job, and we'd have Dolomite, you know, stones. Oh, that's me.
Thank you. Bridget, and on deck, Brian Sire.
Hi, I'm Brigitte Rody Garrison. We just bought a house in Penfield in 2017. My husband and I and our 4 children are at 78 Mountain Road, so we're literally, this is our backyard we're talking about. We're on the side of the park, or the proposed park. We came to Penfield from Brighton because we wanted Penfield, we wanted nature, we believed in the people here, and we're finding it to be wonderful. And it was somewhat scary for us when they talked about developing that land in our backyard. Between the gun range that we hear on Mountain Road and the quarry explosions, it's been a little more loud than we expected. But we do enjoy the fox sounds and the natural sounds every evening, so it's kind of balanced out at this point. So our opinion is that outdoor recreation is our priority in the world today, where there's technology that is being worshipped. We really would like something that promotes health, exercise, nature preservation, and appreciation. Our kids have no place to really ride their bikes and play on a playground, which we kind of knew about, but it's really setting in when they're going through the long winters here. Ride their bikes, walk, run, and it would be amazing if that was preserved for trails to do so. Cross-country skiing, I really wanted to do it, but they put a ban on it, so we couldn't do it last year. But that would be amazing to develop that for that as well. A playground such as the one at Highland Park, which is a natural playground, which would be low impact, would be wonderful, or a regular playground even, just to have our kids to be able to walk without getting hit by cars on Panorama Trail, which the sidewalk is pretty scary. I don't know if anyone's ever run or walked down there. It's pretty scary to go down with the cars like this far from you. So that's our opinion, and we also thought of a spray park or a public pool, possible tennis courts to provide the town with some revenue. Maybe a pool that you join for the summer would be extremely helpful, but to keep most of the park as natural would be what we would like. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Sire, and then Pete Gazin.
Hi. Sear, but...
Sorry.
Sear, no problem. Hi, I'm Brian Sear. I live at 38 Phaeton Drive. I've been a Penfield resident for about 16 years. It's actually my 3rd house in Penfield, so we keep moving around in Penfield. We like it here so much. I've got 3 children who play traditional sports, you know, soccer and volleyball and all that, but they also enjoy some, say, more non-traditional sports, biking and skiing. I mean, just like most kids, running around outside and playing. Keeping them off of these things is always a challenge. So, I mean, I think as, you know, the Penfield residents, we should do everything we can to provide a safe and fun outdoor environment, a natural environment for our kids to play in. Usually when we want to do that, we travel to Victor, to Webster, around East Irondequoit to enjoy those types of sports. It would be great if we had a place right here in town, a few miles right from our house, and you can see it's obviously surrounded by neighborhoods, easy for folks to access. And not just, I would prefer to keep it very natural setting, but also somewhat progressive with off-road biking trails, perhaps a pump track. When we go down to Victor, the kids absolutely love the pump track, love it. I don't know if anybody here has seen the pump track, but they have such a good time. In fact, I was down there on Saturday, and there was 5 kids on the pump track in Victor. There was no cars in the parking lot, so they were probably 12 to 14 years old, so they probably rode their bikes there. It was snowing outside. It was cold, but they were there for 2 hours, riding around, just having a great time.
What is a pump track?
A pump track, it may be an area the size of this room. It's typically man-made dirt where there's just undulating hills like this that go around. And I mean, if you do a search on YouTube for pump track, you'll see what they are. So it's the idea is you don't pedal, you just pump your bike up and down and try to maintain your momentum around the track. And I think that was it. My point is we have to travel to other towns to enjoy these types of sports, and we have a great opportunity to do it right here in Penfield. And again, keeping a natural setting. I think these type of sports are very low impact also, which I hear is resonating from the crowd. So I think it would be a great use for the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Pete Gazin, and on deck is Mark Scuderi with Ned Green.
Good evening. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Mr. Supervisor? Oh, he's not there. I've lived in this town my whole life. I won't say how old, but it's over 60. Dolomite Park at the time, back at the corner of Atlantic and Whalen Road, were baseball diamonds. I played softball there on leagues. That's how far back that goes. Then the golf course came upon us, which was another nice endeavor, obviously. A lot of people, I don't know how many in this room enjoyed it all, but yeah, I play goof, I don't play golf. To keep that property open, clear as it is, would be fantastic. We used to play war when we were kids going to Atlantic Avenue School before it became the church. We went up there and played. My question is this, I don't know if I'm asking the right board members or this is in front of the right board. I had heard, and it's just rumors, that that property was also going to be the home of a new highway department or a community center. Can you answer that for me, or is that, am I talking to the wrong board?
Well, this meeting is for the committee, for the Shadow Pines Land Use Advisory Committee, and there's no plan for that in front of the committee nor in front of the town board at this time.
Thank you. Because I was thinking of truck traffic.
Right.
You already have enough from Dolomite. And they've been here for 100 and something years. There's been talk about moving their driveway from the curve, on the curve there past Clark Road, halfway down to Atlantic Avenue. Have you heard anything?
No, this is all news to me.
Okay. I'm just saying it'd be easier for traffic in and out of there. And then when I had heard the rumor of moving the highway department, I'm thinking that's all you need, more trucks. You know, okay. I worked for the highway department for 36 years. I'm retired from there, thank you very much. I'm happy. But I'm just curious about all the traffic flow and everything. To keep that property, for kids to do things would be fantastic. If I won the lottery, I'd buy that place and own all the property. You know, and yeah, a couple houses here and there. Y'all got your own 20 acres. You know, but to me, to leave that all green space, it's been a mainstay in this town since I was growing up. And I would like to see it stay that way. Whatever you want to do with it. I don't ride a bike anymore, are you kidding me? I kill myself. But I mean, for young kids, all the new families that move into this town to enjoy all the baseball, the soccer, if you could come up with something for that place just to keep it nice, it'd feel good in my heart. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Scuderi, and on deck, Carol Samuel.
Hi, Andy.
Hey.
Hey, Ben. How's everybody tonight? Well, you guys awake? All right, okay, good. I'm Mark Scuderi. Some of you may know me. I run the Soapbox Derby in Rochester. And the soapbox, so we are actively looking for a spot to move the soapbox derby from Lakeshore Boulevard, which has been its home since 1936, to a safer area where we can put up a small building to keep all of our cars in. We have about 120 cars that we loan out to kids now so that they get to race, so that every kid gets to race, including special needs children. We have cars with dual controls so they can race, and they're big enough so that we also have special need adults that also come out. I work a lot with CP Rochester as a volunteer, and I bring them out to race, and they love it. So we're looking for a safe spot, and Ned Green back there is the owner of Wider Hardware. He's a little shy tonight, so he let me come up here. But we're looking for a nice hill somewhere. We have some other places scoped out. On the campus at RIT would be a fantastic place. It's very, very difficult to get anything to happen out there, though. I think most of you know that. We have a location on Phillips Road in Webster. There's no hill there. We'd have to build the hill. We have the backing to do that and to build the track and to make this happen so that there's no tax dollars used. We're looking at less than 1% of Shadow Pines to put this track on in a small little utility building to store the cars in. But if Shadow Pines became available to us and there was a nice hill there, we would love to build something, bring it in there, and make this one of the premier soapbox derby locations in the country. Right now you have the All-American World Championships are in Akron, Ohio. That's a permanent track. There's a permanent track in Sanford, Ohio, that along with the track, they have these beautiful pavilions that they've put up around it. Because you don't race every weekend. You'll race 6 to 10 times a year out there. The rest of the year, those pavilions are available for picnics and for weddings, things like that. There's also a playground, one of those natural playgrounds that I heard somebody talking about earlier. They put it wasn't a bump track. I never heard of that until tonight. All right, but they put another track in for remote-controlled cars that have all those bumps and the dirt and everything. That can be placed somewhere. This is Sanford, Florida, but they also didn't have a hill, and they had to make the hill. But we have, like I said, we have the backing to make that happen. We can bring Caterpillar in here with all of their machinery, and they would move that dirt for us and build that hill. In the case of already having a hill, you don't have as much dirt to move, and Dolomite has already offered to give us the stone and the asphalt that we need at a substantial discount. We've got architecture donated. We have engineering donated. Like I said, the earth moving. So all the things we need to make this happen without any tax dollars being involved. And by the way, the town of Penfield would own all of this. So we'd certainly like you to consider us and to possibly let us use about 1% of that land to bring the soapbox derby to Penfield. There's also a permanent track in Salem, Oregon, Bowling Green, Kentucky. There's about 4 or 5 other ones. But Rochester, New York is probably the best local race in the world right now. We've had 12 world championships since 2001. And this last year, last June, July, in Akron, is the first time one of our special needs kids won the world championship for them. And I would love to have that program right here in Penfield, I'm sorry. I don't want Webster. I want it in Penfield. If I had my choice, it would be right here in Penfield. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Samuel.
Yes, I'm Carol Samuel, and I always have something to say. I'm not shy. When we worked hard to bring about the vote to save Shadow Pines, I do believe that most people were looking at it to be natural. And you've heard a lot. I arrived late because I had a church committee meeting I had to attend. So I missed some of my friends' comments. I have a young puppy. She's only 14 weeks old, but she's been on Shadow Pines already at least 6 or 8 times. Because we go by stroller and then we let her out on the green stuff. She's so much fun. And I appreciate that there are poop bags there and all that stuff. That's great. One thing I find missing there right now is signage to say, welcome, we have this space, come and use it. On Monday, yesterday, when there was no school, and I drove past Shadow Pines, I noticed that there were several cars there, and there were groups of people out walking. That was a school holiday, so it was a great thing to do. Talk about other buildings, if they were there, I would say, boy, if any other building ends up there, they better put a great big buffer zone of trees around them so that we don't have to look at them. We wanted that to be open space, and I hope that it will continue to be that way. Fields, yes. People are making the call that we need more field space. If there's not bathrooms at the other places, would that mean you would be putting bathrooms on Shadow Pines? I don't know. What kind of a facility? People talk about cross-country skiing. I gave up skiing after I fell down on the back nine many, many years ago. And I do snowshoes. So snowshoeing, I want that, yes. It's such a beautiful place. Another thing, I live 3 doors away from Shadow Pines, and it's not just in my back door I'm talking about all of Penfield. The other thing that's happening, because some people on our street were very energetic, is we anticipate getting sidewalks, a sidewalk on one side of Huntington Meadow. That's for safety. It's for safety for young people. It's for safety for old people with little dogs. Okay? It's not fun. I've had dogs right along, and it's not fun in the wintertime to come back to my house along Huntington Meadow when you got a snow pile beside you. There's no space to move along. The sidewalks will make it even more welcome to get onto Shadow Pines. And then we're also going to say we'd like a little cut so that we don't have to go through deep brush from Clark Road onto Shadow Pines. Folks, it's there for you. It really is. All you have to do is go over there and see how lovely it is, and to feel how relaxed you can feel walking, and to let that pervade your plans.
Thank you. John Fredericks.
Hi, everybody. Glad to see everybody out tonight. My name is John Fredericks. I live at 3 Treetop Drive with my wife and 3 kids. We've been there a little over 4 years. We moved from, we were over off North Landing in Penfield schools for about 6.5 years, and it was a hard thing for me to leave over there because it was so accessible for me to get to Corbett's Glen and Ellison Park. And I've felt for the last few years like I've been on this island where it's really difficult to access green space and trails from where we are. And I've been very pleased now that we're legally allowed to be on the front nine for now. And I'm there almost every day running. If you kind of follow the perimeter around, there's like a perfect 2-mile loop, and it makes it really easy to get out and get a workout in. And it was hard. I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like, being that it's close to all the other roads. But when you're back in there, away from the road, it really reminds me of being out in some of the open fields out in Mendon Ponds. And I spend a ton of my time in all the parks around here. I have a group of guys that that I run with and bike with, and right now I have to drive to go do that basically if I want to get off the road. There's a group around that their website is Roads Are Poison, so for runners, pounding away on the sidewalk is not what I want to be doing. Smelling the cars go by and watching cars whiz by. Being out in that green space is great. And also, it would be a great spot. There's so much land there that I think it would be fantastic. You could really run like parallel trails there, where you could have designated walking trails and then designated bike trails at the same time. There's multi-use trails in tons of other parks, and it works out fine. It tends to be that a lot of the biking groups are the ones that are really out there doing the work and helping out on the trails, and support the trails and want them there. For me to take my kids on a decent bike ride, I've got to go to the canal in Pittsford, or I have to go to Brighton, or I have to go up to Webster and get on some of the trail systems up there. I guess one of the biggest recommendations I would have is along Whalen Road and along Clark Road, there's no sidewalks at all. And coming from the west side of Whalen Road, there's no way to safely access the trail or access the park. It would be fantastic if there could just be a sidewalk entrance into the park there on the corner of Whalen and Browncroft. But if there could be some continuation, some way to get safe, for me to get there on a sidewalk right now, I have to take a right out of my neighborhood and then go up Qualtrough and down Embry and back down Scribner just to get back to 300 yards away without having to go across Browncroft in the middle of traffic. So the green space is great. The traffic's a nightmare, and I mean, most days I can't turn left out of my neighborhood. So I think that's it. But it would just be making that accessible would be fantastic. So it's kind of what I'd like to see. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other first-time speakers that would like to come forward? Yes, please come right on up if you want, one at a time, and please let the committee know your name and address. Thank you.
Bob Reed, 275 Parkview Drive. I haven't heard anybody tonight stand up and say, we need some apartment houses on that property, you know? Water's Edge, you know, on Empire, or Ellison Heights, you know, give us something to look up to. Nobody's saying that, but just because nobody's saying that doesn't mean that there aren't voices in this town and this area that aren't thinking that, or thinking of some kind of commercial development there. And some of those voices, developers and builders, have a lot of traction. They have powerful voices. So just because the overwhelming sentiment here is that we want to keep it green, or maybe some development around the edges in terms of recreation, doesn't mean that the committee and the town are going to implement that idea. People need to stay involved in monitoring it. I've been involved in a number of meetings like this where public opinion is earnestly requested and then eventually totally disregarded. So the challenge is to stay involved and remember, we're not the only voices in the town, and there may be other viewpoints.
Thank you. Mr. Froome?
I'm Jim Froome. I live at 11 Denonville Ridge. I was a 30-year resident on the golf course, 3 years before it was a golf course, and I've been 7 years, about a block from the golf course now. I spent a long time writing this, and I'm going to probably throw most of it away, so I'm going to jump around. But oh, and also I was on the moratorium committee, and I have spent a fair amount of time researching some of this stuff. So I hope most of the things I say are either my opinion or pretty factually based. Simply put, as having been on the moratorium for everything we went through there, I believe the long-term usage for the Shadow Pines property should be for open space parkland and recreational use in its entirety. And I'm not going to go on about that because a lot of people have talked about it. I think the moratorium committee recommended and the townspeople voted for this. And the previous speaker, I kind of agree with what he says. And I'm going to use that as a segue to get off of this. But I'd like the committee to, if you have questions, ask the town or ask the people that were on the committee, the moratorium committee, ask about the history, because there's a lot of history, what's going on, that started in 1966 of why the properties around the quarry are what they are. And how we got into the space 3 years ago when a company that bought the quarry in 2000 decided they didn't want the property anymore, and their deal was just to get the best price for the property that they could. And because we had never rezoned it or done anything, we were in kind of a pickle, and we ended up paying a premium price for it. And I don't think anybody in this room is going to argue that, but if we would have followed the master plans and the recreational plans and all these other plans we've done through the years, we may have done something about it. And that's what I want to kind of impress upon the committee, is learn the history, because whether it's special interest groups or this or that, there are so many pieces of property in this town that have been highlighted for some sort of recreational use. One recently that turned into houses was suggested it was the last major piece of open property in the middle of Penfield. And remember, east side of Penfield is a little more populated than, or excuse me, the west side than the east side. And they were talking about a property on the east side of Penfield that would be great. And in the plan, I don't remember which one it was, but it was fairly recently, they said we need more adult recreational spots, maybe even a building. And then nobody that I know of in this room, I mean, I don't know all of you obviously, but the people have been pretty active, nobody knew it hit them, and all of a sudden we're building a bunch of houses there. So to the committee, you know, our history is important, and look at some of the plans and some of the ideas that have been stated how to keep it open. And then after 1966, when the quarry was deemed to be a problem in the middle of a growing town, a few years later is when a committee was put together, and that's when the idea of the golf courses came to be, because the supervisor at that time said to Dolomite, you're not putting houses there. You're not putting all these houses next to the quarry. And then that led to, 30 years of golf courses and what everybody thought was open space, and it was said to be open space. If you look at all the master plans, recreational plans, there's no talk of any of this stuff. If you look at the DEC applications from Dolomite post and pre, with the current owners and the old owners, one local, one from Ireland, the DEC application started after the 1966 master plan, where they said it was a nuisance. And from that point forward, they took care of it, and they always identified those lands as buffers. And then I would probably agree with 95% of stuff that's been said here tonight, but what I'd like to emphasize is I believe that we have all sorts of opportunities to fill some of these needs, whether it be, soccer fields, lacrosse fields. I think anything for the committee, I'm asking you to really consider keeping the property together, keeping it as open space recreational, fill it as much as you can with nature. And if that can't be done, if the price is wrong, then make it into a golf course. Because a private owner has never been suggested for the property when it was put up for sale, because it enhanced the value of the other two courses. It is one of the finest it was one of the finest golf courses in Rochester, in the upstate New York, really, and it was one of the few private. It would be the one thing where you would have parking lots full during the summer months, some events, and it would bring revenue into the town. Now, I'm not saying that's what we should do, but I'm just saying, if you're looking at all these different ways of doing it, think of everything that could be done with the property. And again, I'm going to put my hat in keeping it natural, keeping it open, and find some usages that go along with that and promote it. And then my last thing I want to say is, I have watched two of your three meetings, and I've been reading the information coming out of the town hall, and this is sort of to the committee, but it's also to the town board, is I think the town board has done a disservice to the committee a little bit. they jumped the gun when they said, and sometimes it's in there and sometimes it's not, but somewhere along the way, they've decided to get requests for usage for the Clark House. And I believe if the committee is truly supposed to figure out the usage for the property, and I'm talking both short-term, which is 10 to 20 years, and long-term, which is, when the quarry becomes a lake, and it might be 50 years, we don't know, because they've been saying 20 years for 35, 40 years now, but you need the Clark House as part of the property, at least for your consideration. If you, the committee, says, no, we got all these other great ideas, and we don't need the Clark House, that's fine, do it in a year or two. And then my last thing I want to say is that there's a bunch of people, and I have not been involved in Parks and Recreation or any of this stuff, but I know that Shadow Pines and Shadow Lake and this whole fiasco brought a lot of people out. And it's my belief that, for instance, I'm hearing some people saying, well, maybe let's take the barn down across from the Clark House. It's in bad shape. I believe we ought to take a look at that barn, and if it's recoverable, how many people would like to see maybe a group of volunteers from Penfield, a lot of old people like me that are retired but still healthy, maybe we raise some money to get the supplies we need, maybe some of the building places around here, donate them, and then maybe in a weekend or two we have a barn raising and rebuild that dang thing. Because there's a lot of usages for it, and while it does, from what I understand, and I don't know much about this, but it is a historic place. It's right across from the Clark House. It's part of the, it's part of the nature of that whole area. And a couple of you talked about you don't live here, but you drive through how beautiful it is. Well, I've been doing that since 1980, and I would certainly like to see that barn and the natural landscape stay intact with whichever usages the committee comes up with. And I'm going to thank you profusely right now because you got a lot of work ahead of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Keith Farrell, Farmbrook Drive. My wife and I were plenty of ideas, but most of them have already been said. One thing was a conservatory, building a conservatory. I know everybody said not building and stuff like that, but in winter, the only thing you can do is snowshoe and cross-country ski. If you build a conservatory, you get that year-long use out of it. And then on top of that, make it a two-type double-use building of a natural playground, like other people have said, Highland Park being the example. And one other final thing would be a suggestion is the pond on Clark Road, have a little shack, if you will, like a hut. You can rent ice skates, turn it into a winter thing also, and then, get hot chocolate in there and stuff like that. I think opportunity is a word that's been said quite a bit tonight, and, you guys have quite an opportunity to do good things here, so. And, green space is something we're all behind also, but like many of you, we have younger kids. We need places to go instead of Men in Ponds Park and the canal in Pittsford. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Amy from Mance Lane. I've heard so many suggestions for shared use trails, and that is why I'm here. That's why we have a bunch of kids sitting in the corner. They feel strongly about sharing trails, riding bikes, and just pointing out that most sports are not family-oriented, but riding bikes and hiking is something my whole family gets together to do. We can all do it for reasonable prices. We all enjoy it. And I think it's important now. We do drive to Victor often, or drive lots and lots of places, lots of driving to ride bikes and hike nice trails, and that's something that Penfield doesn't have. So green space, shared use trails all go together. And I think that's a great idea. Also nervous, thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Dexter Frank, I live at 26 Donville Ridge, about
200 yards from what was once the 7th green, and unfortunately it's not anymore. But it, I think from my background, I played a lot of different sports. I do a lot of running, so I'm all on board with a lot of the things that people have been saying about use of it. However, it leaves me thinking that, well, there's a group that wants lacrosse, which my son played. There's a group that wants soccer. And then that leaves the committee in the town having to pick and choose here. And sometimes I think it's not, and even if the naturalist type of idea wins out, all of them are going to be cost. There's going to be a cost to any of it. From a natural standpoint, we have no idea. And I'm trying to not play it down. I really agree with the idea of keeping this away from housing, although I would say we do need some condos over there. I'll be the first one to say that. No, I'm just kidding. But if you were to put any of that stuff, you're going to need parking. We're going to have to put a parking lot there. That parking lot's going to have to be maintained, depending on what you're going to do. With the idea of Jim's idea of raising the barn, and once you and your friends do that, I mean, maybe we could put in a curling rink. Who knows? But I think all of the ideas are great, but everything's got a cost to it. And I think there's got to be a point where we look at it as, where are we going to get the money from? Thinking that we're going to have a master plan for the quarry and the next golf course, I think is way jumping ahead. I think we got to decide that what we can do now is something that's going to not cost any more or be minimal cost. It can be maintained, it can be attractive to people, and the environment also has to be looked at. I mean, it's sat fallow for so many years now. There could be all kinds of invasive things growing in there, contamination, the pesticides from the golf course. I mean, there's a lot of things there that, I mean, the idea of just being natural is there's a cost associated with that as well. So a 4-season use of the place that may include commercial developments, may include public-private partnerships, I think is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Joe Callan. I live on Harris Road. And I would just like to admonish a little perspective here. We were told tonight by Jeff that it's about 200 acres. Is that correct? Does that include the lake? Would it be 300 with the lake?
Well, that's Dolomite's land.
Right, but I mean in the far future. In any case, when you're looking at 200 acres, it sounds like it's very, very big, but it's really not. If you look at Central Park in New York, that's 800 acres, okay? And when you start pitching and putting in pitches for soccer and commensurate parking and fencing and lighting, you can eat up 200 acres very rapidly. So you got to be very cautious about how you plan this, and it's got to be planned from the ground up, inch by inch. And so I would like to second Donna's comment that we don't rush this. This could be our Central Park, and it could be a beautiful thing for Penfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other first-time speakers? Okay. With that, I will open the floor to a second opportunity to speak. I just ask that you keep that to about 30 seconds, 1 minute at the most. Any second-time speakers? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, with that, again, on behalf of the town board and the committee, would like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Committee members, thank you for your time and your efforts participating in this volunteer capacity. Again, for the residents, any suggestions, ideas, or comments that you have, please submit that to the town by December 4th. And I just want to say for the record that the town has received a handful of emails for people that could not make it this evening, and those emails will be shared with the Shadow Pines Committee. Thank you all very much and have a safe evening.